Welcome, everyone. Martin Khodabakhshian is our guest today. Martin has an interesting perspective on sports, which transcends into life with messaging anyone can benefit from. Graduating with a degree in rhetoric and communication, Martin went on to win 15 Emmys in sports broadcasting, and he is a senior producer at ESPN. His films go to the extreme, one even defying logic. Here we go with, as he is known worldwide, Martin K. Welcome, Martin.
Worldwide, maybe like Central Florida, parts of Connecticut.
That's so
some Armenian circles throughout the U.S. You know, it's a pleasure to be here with you all. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being with us. This is so exciting.
This is great. Well, we're going to take literally a deep dive on this conversation. You're a passionate producer, but you took it to a whole nother level when, with your own money and your own time, you decided to produce a film called Breathe, and this was released over 10 years ago. Breathe tells the story of a man who models how to neutralize stress, fear, and the unknowns, and it's about a person who can hold his breath for 8 minutes, has free dived over 334 feet, and is known as the world's deepest man, where every dive he takes is life-challenging. So Martin, I've known you for quite some time, and you seem more of a land person than water, so how did this project get your attention?
Yeah, I don't like heights and I don't like deep water. So we were producing a piece for the show E60 that I was working on. I was tasked with producing a show that I pitched as, hey, let's do a theme show on the riskiest sports on the planet. And William Trubridge definitely partakes in one of those as a free diver. So after we did the film with him, and he was like a shorter feature in the larger 1 hour show, William asked if there was anyone that I knew that would do a full documentary on him, and I quickly raised my hand, and we dove deeper, no pun intended. So we kind of just connected on that original piece, and we went even further, and it was great because we got to explore so many more things about his life that didn't make that original 15-minute feature.
Now, did you ever go on a dive with him in the water? Did he ever invite you and you jumped in?
Well, we probably would have had much more DVD and iTunes sales because I probably would have drowned, and then that would have been this amazing, like a tragic hook that was a marketing tool. I did not, but I will give you one quick funny story. So Dean's Blue Hole is in Long Island in the Bahamas. There's one road, dirt road. You'd be fascinated with this place. One dirt road around the whole island. You land on a Band-Aid coming in on an airplane that has like one working propeller. It's pretty intense. And the airport is, the size of my media room. There's no real airport. And we went to Dean's Blue Hole multiple times, obviously, to film William Trubridge, but he asked me to try. And I was like, I can't do that. Well, I can barely hold my breath for 30 seconds without getting paranoid. But members of my crew, my dearest friends, who are all doing this together as a passion project, I look up and my longtime friend Warren, who was our audio tech there, is standing on this 40-foot cliff that's the cove around the Dean's Blue Hole. And we were looking at Warren, like, where's Warren? I'm like, Warren, what are you doing, man? And before those words get out of my mouth, he jumps into the lagoon over into the Dean's Blue Hole.
Oh my gosh.
Dock and swim to shore. And I'm like, are you crazy? Next thing I know, my director of photography, Michael Block, is going, Jeff Block is going. And I'm like, what are these guys doing? And I followed them in suit, and I conquered my fear of heights and deep water with not one, but 2 jumps into Dean's Blue Hole. Now,
wow.
When you hit that water, it's so clear. I opened my eyes and you could see this dark, cavernous, deep, right? This thing is enormous. And I was terrified, and I treaded water very quickly and swam to shore. But I'm not kidding you guys, I almost drowned because I was so tired and I was just tired because I was treading water. We were playing in the water for a little bit. We were trying to get to the airport. And I almost drowned about 20 feet from shore because once you come off the sand to Dean's Blue Hole, it immediately goes to like 30 feet of water. It's a sand edge, and it's not like you gradually go from ankle high to knee high to waist high. You are underwater. And my legs locked up, and I wasn't in shape. I wasn't even in least shape than I am now. And amazing stormtrooper figure. So that's my story of freediving. I wouldn't call it freediving. I would call that free falling.
So on that, did it hurt? Because I did a 2-foot jump. No, it was a little bit more than that. But it hurts when you go into the water, doesn't it? Were you sore later?
I came in like a pencil. I have no training. Like I used to be much more crazy when I was younger, jumping off high dives and going head first off high dives. Here I'm just like, the water seemed clear. All these guys are doing it. I'm going to look like a chicken if I don't do this. I was peer pressured without being peer pressured. I put it on myself. So then I just jumped straight in. I hit the water and I just looped up. And the minute I opened my eyes, I was like so exhilarated. But you see this daunting black hole. And I popped up and I was like, yeah. I'm like, okay, I can do this spot where I can. And then what caused me to get so tired was when we were treading water, I was looking up at Jeff Balaka, a dear, one of my closest friends on the planet. And he's like, he's the last one to go. And his legs are like at the edge. And he's like, my heart's saying yes, but my legs are saying no. We're like, yes, if I can do it, you can do it, pal. Come on, man. And I'm like, why am I treading water in this area? I can literally go stand in ankle feet water on this side of the lagoon. So I finally got over there and he jumped. And as we were trying to get to the hotel, I'm like, I'm going to do this one more time because I'm never coming back here. That was amazing. Like going on a fast pass at Disney, I'm like, I got no line. I just went up, jumped in. And that time I came up, I go, okay. Oh, and what's crazy is when I was swimming back, there's a platform, obviously where they go right above the hole and they, the camera crews and the coaches and the lifeguards and the rescue teams and the scuba guys, they're all sitting on this thing, but not when I jumped. There's no one there. So I reached in and go, oh, this isn't that far. This is like I used to swim in the Minneapolis lakes growing up. This isn't that far. This is no problem. Okay, here we go. I'm telling you, about 6 strokes in, my head starts playing tricks on me, but there is a little tug because when the freedivers go down in that hole, there's a natural current about 6 feet down that just starts taking them down. They're not swimming anymore. So imagine that on, enough of my amazing heroics. Think about what these men and women do. Not only are they going down on one breath, but at about 60 feet, the current is taking them down and they're just going down and it's getting quiet. It's quiet and dark and lonely. And you make one mistake and you're gone. And teams can go down with you, but they can't equalize as quickly as they've trained to do. Then you have to grab this tag at 300 feet, pitch black, and then give yourself one little yank on that rope. And now you're going up against the current with one breath. I mean, and you took me back to a place that I did not necessarily think I was going this way.
I know you asked me, you email and say, hey, what do you, I'll talk about anything. What do you want to talk about? We really want to make sure that guests come in without having the questions ahead of time because we want audiences to feel like it's that genuine moment right there and it's authentic. And okay, so you shared a little bit about a fear there. What would you help, if you're helping people and they're trying to neutralize stress, fear, and the unknowns? William has that. Obviously, you found that, you secured that in that situation. But life now, it's a little different than when the last time you and I were together. It's been a while since we've been together, and it seems like for many, life is getting tougher. So, what would you share in terms of someone it could just be, can't get the laundry done, can't get my child ready for school, I lost my job, the eggs are expensive. How do we help these people in terms of neutralizing their stress and fear and unknowns?
Well, this is I mean, you and I are a little biased in this platform. I try not to always use it as something that might scare them off, but God is my driving source of the equalizer. Okay. And without engaging my friends, family, strangers, interview subjects, crew, whoever it might be, a random stranger. I prayed with a homeless guy 2 days ago, headed to a wedding, and he was fearful because he said, I'm not going to eat. And I was like, oh my gosh, I literally don't have cash, and I know you don't take Venmo. You know what I can give you right now? We can either go get a meal, but what I really want to do for you? I want to pray for you right now. And we started to pray, and he was kind of antsy, but then he was like, you know what? I need more. I need that more than the meal right now. And I was like, wow, if that's not the Holy Spirit working through me into him, I don't know what is. But another thing I like to do is I like to let people know about my anxieties. I strip myself down. I let people know that I'm nervous. Forget about butterflies before a big interview or watching. I let them know that I suffer from anxiety. I have gone and sought help. I have done stories on mental health, but I have gone and seen someone and spoken to about big anxieties and small anxieties. Sometimes you don't know what it is. Why am I not wanting to get out of bed? Why? And there's times where you know why you're feeling that anxiety. So I think everyone is just unique. You make them feel human, and you just relate to them as quickly as you can. As I'm just like you. I'm a bald, short, non-athletic Armenian man, but I do know stress, and I do know raising kids to being married. I've been single and I haven't had kids, so I know where you're coming from, and it's just like trying to place yourself in and trying to pinpoint like what is bothering you, like what is bothering you, and what can we talk how can we talk through that first, and then if they'll have an open ear, I might sneak a little God in there once in a while.
That's really awesome because I've always known that about you. Your faith, it's like a light that shines, but your heart is always outside for all to embrace. And you've always been great with that. So now here's another question.
It takes somebody like that to appreciate and know someone like that, Andrew.
So in now when we go in a little bit of a different tangent, you're very creative as well, and you do work with an intuition, and that's something that William, he describes it as going below the surface of consciousness to access intuition and creativity. So I am going to preface this question with, if anyone in the audience is listening to this and like, wow, 8 minutes, that's a long time to hold your breath, and they want to see how far they can go because you said 30 seconds, please, if anyone tries that, be in a safe environment, be wise, be on land when you try that. But just be in a safe and wise environment. But with that, how would you, because this is a different tangent, this is more on the intuition, creativity side of people finding their purpose and passion. How would you share that with someone and that's searching, that's still waiting to find that? Because you've always, every project and every day you're so passionate about. So how would you like to share with that for audiences that are excited to hear?
That's a great thing to bring up, because I think a lot of people, whether they want to be in this business or they want to be creative in the way they're in business management, or how do they talk to their leaders, or how do they talk to their kids, their spouse, their new project, they got to give a big presentation and they want to capture people's, and I think there's an innate fear in all of us, even people who can just think of something and a shoot off the top of their head and say, hey, go stand here, go stand by this brick wall, hold your hands like this and do this. Like, I've been asked this question before. Are you in a different way? Are you born with this creative drive and passion and ability, or do you learn it? And I'm going, listen, you've woken up before and gone to your fridge and had nothing to eat, and you've had an empty pantry, and you have figured out something creative. You may have made a peanut butter and banana and something sandwich, right? That sounds actually pretty good. You've gone and been like, oh my gosh, I haven't done any laundry and I forgot to do this. And you've creatively put together an outfit that is respectable. I mean, if you can get away with this shirt, you can get away with anything. I guess my point is, like, everyone has creativity in them. They're just kind of either afraid or don't realize that they can do it. Now you need some reps. You need to think, what if, and there's another thing that everyone does. Everyone watches things that they like, whether it's on TV, in nature, read a book, and images and things conjure up in your mind. Feelings and emotions conjure up in you all the time, every second. So you are creative. You can be creative. Now it's just a matter of honing in and seeing things that you've seen or experienced that you like. For me as a director, then there's the balance. How much of the journalistic reporting do you want to do, and how serious, it's a serious story, but you want to make sure people stick around to watch this serious story on board. What kind of music are you using? Whatever. So there's a fine balance and then dance that happens. But the main point here is that everyone can do it. And I'm not saying everyone can go just be a director or producer, but whatever you're trying to do in your line of passions and I wish I could do this, wish you could do that. Well, you have to practice. As you know, you can't just smash a forehand and a backhand and just want to do it. Oh, I wish I could be a tennis player. Well, that's great. That's great to have that passion. Now you got to go there every day. And after you get the fundamentals down, now you can get cute and a little creative and start doing our boy Agassi's shots through the legs and practice that. If you have innate talent for something, that shot's going to come a little easier. But if you don't, it doesn't mean that you can't be the greatest tennis player ever, or an award-winning producer, singer, or a successful business person.
No, absolutely. That really helps. And it leads into this next section, which there's so much said about be in the present. You know, everyone talks about being in the present. And so you and I are in different fields, but we're always working on something. We always have something in motion, you know, a year down the pipeline, and then something possibly even decades down the way. So how do you process your be in the present?
It's easy to do when you have a deadline. Oh, I got to zoom in. I got another Zoom at 1. Well, no, it's funny because I actually I think I'm personally function a little better, and I'm not promoting procrastination or free diving without any experience. I seem to do better when there's a little bit of organized chaos. And I would never, ever compare myself to Steven Spielberg, probably my favorite director and producers of all time. But he once said that he's at his best when he's scared and things seem like they're just out of control, like nothing is going to go right. And then he starts, because I think there's not to use a Star Wars analogy, but there's like a little bit of a Han Solo mentality. He didn't want to be in the asteroid field. He chose to go in it because he's like, this is how we're going to lose these guys. Yeah, but the odds of surviving this are, never tell me the odds. Boom. And you just go. Some people have that confidence and that eagerness and like, okay, I'll just do it. And some are a little more reserved, and that's fine too. But I literally am working on 3 different stories right now. So I can shift gears, and it's almost like I look at it as a blessing and something that I get to do, as opposed to some things that I have to do. Oh my gosh, I have to get all these interviews lined, and I have to get sites picked out for interview locations, and we have to get credentials for whatever. You know, you can delegate a little bit, take that stress off a little bit, trust your team. If you're working with a team, trust that they will perform and they care and they have something to prove as much as you do. That takes a big stress off, which goes back to that anxiety. And you realize you can't and shouldn't do everything by yourself. And when you have a good team, I've become a great collaborator, because that's what makes great directors, great producers, is collaborating, having faith in your team, empowering them. And the next thing you know, you've taken off your workload. You can focus on 3 different things, and you can think uber creative for this project. You can be a little more journalistic for this project.
It's great. On this, since we're on this bravery, fear subject a little bit, I have this. It has to do with water too.
I'm the most guy on the planet. I'm scared of everything.
Yeah, with me, I mean, if I'm going to be bold, I'll be bold for the foundation or to help kids. Like for me, bold is fundraising and going out on a ledge and helping the kids. And so that's more my realm of courage. And so there was one particular time I was really trying to get a meeting with this particular person. And finally I got the notice, okay, you can come. This is a while ago. And he goes, you can come meet with me, and I'll be in the Hamptons at that time. And so I'm like, okay. So, I get my business suit. I have my files, my work files. I usually always take a tennis racket and tennis clothes. So I'm all ready. I arrive at his house, and I get out and I'm carrying everything. I left my racket and the tennis clothes in the car. So I walk in like all ready to go for this meeting. And he looks at me and he goes, okay, so we're going to meet and talk during my ocean swim. And I'm like looking at him because I'm like not that person. Like I'm more a land person. And so didn't hesitate. So because I'm like, this is going to help the kids. This is going to help the foundation. I go get my tennis clothes, put my tennis clothes on, jump in the water. So this guy can swim. We're like way out. It's like we're way out, and I'm sitting there saying prayers to like all the Jaws. I saw Jaws really young. So I'm saying prayers to Jaws going, hey, this is for a good cause. This is a goodwill project. So help me out. I'm talking to the turtles, the dolphins saying, help me out here. And meanwhile, the waves were like crashing in. Like every once in a while, my head would bob up and I'd like gurgle out this ocean water and say a stat on my foundation. And I'd be like, okay, so Little Star Foundation. And then I'd go under again. And so it's like, so at the end, we get out and he looked at me and he goes, I just wanted to see if you'd do it. And he goes, you have the donation. And so that was the situation. So, but I'm more of that person. I have friends that fly planes. They they go surfing, they do scuba diving, they do all kinds of adventurous things. And they always invite me. And I'm like, I'm great at taking pictures. I'll stay far away. I'll take the pictures. And, and I always answer, this is my job, and my job needs me to be safe for my job. So that's usually what happens. So I preface this with our three hosts, as you see here, our three main hosts at Little Star Light are Adriana Solarova, myself, Andrea Yeager, and Karen Vasquez. So Adriana came from a similar background of me, training a lot. She played collegiate tennis, which I did not do, and then she also played pro tennis. But Adriana climbs these mountains. We went to climb once. I was on my hands and knees. We didn't even start. We were like at foot 3, and she just went flying. And she races. She does track motorcycle riding and surfs and does all this other stuff. But so anyway, that's my introduction of Adriana, and she has some questions for you. So here we go on
I have some questions for Adriana. We're turning this full circle.
Oh my goodness. Martin, thank you so much for being with us. I'm so excited, and I've heard so many wonderful things. And I firstly wanted to say I read one of your recent posts on Instagram, and I wanted to say congratulations for being nominated for 3 National Sports Emmy Awards for 2 different projects.
Thank you so much. That's some serious research right there. Thank you. It only happens.
I will name them too, because it's one of them being the College Football National Championship Open of Grit and Glory, crafted by the incredible composer John Williams, for outstanding open, and for music direction, and for your work on Monday Night Football, including the tease you did with Jesse, the Body, Ventura. And I've listened to the composition, and it's just beautiful. It's incredible. I watched him.
He doesn't miss. John Williams does not miss. Okay. That man is 91 years old, and he is the most humble. I mean, Andrea is pretty humble. Okay.
Yes.
Andrea is extremely humble.
Extremely humble. I know. It's
what she could do, when she could do it, and while she's doing it. I mean, you guys know her backstory. I mean,
yes.
You're like, oh, I feel bad for this woman who's twice my age, and I could literally grab a mop off this court, and I don't really want to win so much. I'd rather go visit these sick children. Okay, let's get this over with. And are we done? Thanks, Judge. Bye. I mean, that's humility in life. So on that note, John Williams, who's done every score for every movie that I've grown up on, pretty much that I love, including my favorites, he was so humble. I mean, he was we wrote him a love letter to my director, Michael Schaus. We literally wrote him a love letter to just see if he would even be interested, based on a suggestion by a coordinating producer named Bill Bonnell, who's a great friend. Just ask us, would you want to work with John Williams? I'm like, that's like saying, would you want some ice cream any time of the day? No one is going to say no, right? And John Williams is the best triple Sunday of all time.
He's one of the greatest of all. Yeah.
So thank you for mentioning that. That's very sweet of you. Thank you.
And it leads me to this question. What are some of the qualities you possess or have developed over time that made you successful at what you do and in life in general?
Well, we can't cuss on this podcast, but I'm a very big, bold. No, I'm kidding. The rhetoric and communication. Rhetoric is the art of persuasive language. Okay. What I've realized over time is that I thought I was really smart. Okay. Growing up, I was a salutatorian of my high school, Jesuit high school, all boys. I'm like, I'm smart. I'm this. I'm charismatic. I'm funny. You know what? I can get. Oh wait, rhetoric and communications. What is rhetoric? Oh, the art of persuasive language. I'll major in that, and I can do that in whatever I want to do. I don't even know what I want to do yet. So I graduate with this diploma that literally tells people this guy is a professional bullcrapper. That's my degree. Professional bullcrapping with a minor in English. Okay. I can public speak. I can talk in front of everyone. I don't really care, because then I realized it wasn't that I was smart, funny, and charismatic. It's because I was so freaking self-deprecating and didn't take myself as seriously as I thought, that it just makes everything else easier. If you leave your ego at the door and you're not afraid to ask questions and empower other people to do the really hard stuff, or help you do the hard stuff that you want to do, you will be successful in whatever you want to do. And I'm telling you, when I start relating the things in my craft with everyday things, you realize that if you apply those everyday things to the things you do in the field and how you treat people, and you don't have to manage up and manage down, you just treat people literally with the love and respect that God taught, you will go far in whatever you want to accomplish, period. And I mean, not to bring up Andrea again, because I know she's like, this is about our subject, but this woman deals with the heaviest stakes on the planet. You know, and it makes me emotional thinking about like life and death, period. There's no other stakes than that, right? And when you're dealing with those kind of story topics, you're like, oh, I'm going into a sensitive story topic and I'm going to talk to a family about losing a child or losing their sibling or losing their parent or losing whatever, or to addiction or a tragic accident. I mean, that's a lot of trust you have to gain with someone, where you don't have time to go out for a cup of coffee and get to know their favorite movies. And if they've ever heard of John Williams' score, blah, blah, you're like diving in and you got to get to the nitty gritty fast. So how are you doing that without sounding insensitive or not seeming genuine, that you actually care about the people? What do? This is a 21-year secret I'm going to give you from ESPN. I tell them about me. I tell them that I've suffered from addictions and failure and broken relationships and all the things that I've done, and how I've kind of overcome them, and that I don't look at them as just another person or just another story. And they seem to catch it quickly. They see it quickly in the way I behave around them and the things that I ask of them. So I think that's the biggest skill, is like being yourself and having faith in being yourself first.
That's beautiful. And speaking of humble, you are extremely humble. I mean, I have to confess, Martin, I slightly went on the rabbit hole with your Instagram account. And a lot of Star Wars. Listen, and Christmas.
This is just for look and decoration, just to give. I have no credibility. You got Tony Hawk on here. You got all these celebs. I'm like,
no, you have a Star Wars Christmas tree.
The Star Wars Christmas. We could have done a whole podcast on the Christmas tree.
Oh my gosh, that's great. And but I wanted to say with that, all of that resonates with what we just talked about. You, in all your posts, you are so thoughtful and so profound, and you always give credit to everybody you collaborate with, and you are grateful for it. And it's so beautiful and soulful. And apart from that, you are so close to your family and your wife. And there is one of your posts on your beautiful and amazing wife's birthday, whose name is Shalom. You wrote such a touching message. I thought it would be special to share it with our audiences, as it shows pureness of love.
Can I get her in here so that I can get some points?
Yes.
Shalom, what are you doing? Busy, so go ahead.
And pureness of your love for your wife and your family. Would it be okay if I read some of it?
Of course, it's public.
Okay, great. Yes, it was just so beautiful. All right, here we go. Not time, not age, or even life's biggest obstacles can stand in the way of my love for you, Shalom. From the day I fell in love with you to today, my heart only grows more attached to yours, and my adoration continues to deepen for who you are. I am on the opposite end of perfect, and I don't deserve you. But yet here on your birthday, and every day for that matter, it's you giving me and our family the biggest gift, your unconditional, godly, and undying love. It's so beautiful. It's like a poem. It's amazing. I was I'm like, I thank you for letting me share.
Chat GPT too, so do not give credit to AI. I mean,
it's was so touching, and thank you for letting me share it. I thought it was just so beautiful.
Thank you. Very, very sweet. Thank you. I do love my wife.
Thank you.
I would be this without her, because she has taken on she's given me the opportunity to have two dreams. One, to pursue a career. I mean, whatever the career was, not necessarily just ESPN. And she made a ton of sacrifices. She moved across country. She moved. I never introduced my eldest as my stepdaughter in any way, but she had a 2-year-old daughter that she moved from grandparents, family, cross country to come to live with ESPN. And I've raised Julianne since she was 2.
Yeah.
and Roman, he's 15 and Lila's 13. I mean, all these guys make sacrifices so that I can go play, and then at the same time, she's a mother. And that's, well, you want to talk about free diving and some of the things we do? That is a hard job. I rather try to free dive than be a full-time mom and all the things that she did. So thank you for reading that and acknowledging her. It means a lot.
It's beautiful. Thank you. You are a highly spiritual human being. What role does faith play in your life?
Everything. Coincidentally, I've started working the cameras at our church, the Crossings Church here in Winter Garden, and these guys, they're like, "Oh, Martin, we got these new cameras, and we're gonna do live streaming, and with like 3 angles, and we got this other one on a gimbal. It's a handheld. Do you think you can?" I'm like, guys, I am not a cameraman. I will mess up. I take good selfies. Okay, I can take good selfies and position myself and get everyone on board and get everyone included, and I can take really cool pictures. I'll try. I'll do my best. But faith is everything in my life. I love to serve. I'm starting to serve with my wife, and it's just fun serving at church. I went to a treat called, I'm doing a little bit of a plug here, called Solely Business. And frankly, like changed even where I thought my relationship was with Christ. And that I wasn't leaning into God or resting in God like I should be. I feel like every time I was talking to God, it was about, thank you for this, and please help me with this. That's it. Really, like, thank you for the, and that's not bad. I'm not trying to say that's bad. I'll condone any sort of prayer. Like, please pray, speak to God. But like relationship with God, it's like, man, that is missing. And I was going through the Bible to feel like I almost was going through the entire Bible with my family, made it feel like more like homework for them, and trying to get it through as a family. Almost not just that we could, but like, we did it. What did you learn? It's like, what are we doing? And I wasn't pouring into the word and how it affects me, and let them just see me read the Bible, or let me just go on my path. And when they're ready, say, "Oh, Dad's reading his Bible. Maybe I should read my Bible." And there's a lot of things that with my faith that's continued to evolve and grow, because I would be zero without God. And as much as I would love to sit here and boast and say, here are my priorities: God, family, God, wife, family, work, philanthropy.
Yeah.
Right now, if you ask my wife, she would tell you right now, work has always been your priority. Your work is your priority. And I've justified, "Oh, but I'm doing it for the family, and I'm doing this. I'm doing." So I gotta get God up here, so that so it's not just seen on social or with you guys, or just even fooling myself with my own rhetoric, telling me, "No, dude, you have God first every time." Do I? Well, let's work on that, and let's see where that goes. That's just being transparent. If you can't be transparent with yourself, you're not going to fool God. God's not going to be like, "Hey, wait, did you have you first yesterday or not?" "Hey, bro, I feel like I'm number 9, out of 8. Where are you? What are you doing?" So that's the truth. That's where I am with my faith.
Oh, wonderful. Wow. Also, you have produced many amazing projects, films and documentaries, earning deserved success in form of telling incredible stories, gaining vast recognition and appreciation. What is the most courageous experience you are able to share with us, where you felt like it could be a great success or could very much go in the opposite direction?
Oh boy. Let's start with meeting Andrea back in 2000, whatever. There's been a wide gamut of stories, humorous, big name profile with athletes. Anytime you're dealing with a big name athlete, okay? Honestly, Andrea's literally one of the biggest ones, but she was just so easy to work with, and there was no ego. And a lot of the athletes, they're young, they got a ton of money, they've never been told no. But you're not going to become their best friend overnight. Human interest, when you do human interest stories, there's a little more time and to just dive into people's lives, and they're willing to share a little more because that's just the way it works. But I would say I'll use the most recent long form documentary that I directed with Drew Robinson. Drew Robinson, who's now, I call him little brother, and he calls me big brother, even though he's a former professional baseball player who could literally hit me 450 feet off a fence because he's so built and smart and beautiful and amazing. attempted to take his life. April 2020. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So here I am with this responsibility during COVID to go do not only the first story ESPN's allowing producers and directors to travel and go do a story for. That's just a logistical, oh, let's make sure everyone's safe type thing. I'm walking into this man's life who lost his eye, survived this horrific decision that he made to take his own life, and then switched after surviving for 20 hours to try to save his own life and make it the 911 call instead of finishing himself off. And I mean, I'm just saying it. And imagine, like, what do you say to a guy when you're walking in before you even meet him at a Starbucks to tell him, hey, we're going to do your story? You know, even though we're coming in with Jeff Passan, who has our baseball reporter and another good friend who's developed a relationship with the agent. And we're walking into like sacred ground here of a guy's life who literally almost, he decided to almost take. So how do you navigate that? How do you navigate that topic with his parents and his siblings? And now the pressure of, now we've gotten their trust and we've gotten all this material and go craft the story. All these people who either suffer from mental illness or are feeling completely fine, but could get triggered or go, oh, how do you tell this story without derailing them? That fear is the biggest fear, the fear of the responsibility of dealing with someone's life and story. Whew. And my colleagues have done unbelievable. I mean, that was the hardest part in talking to, I still remember the soundbite that Andrea gave us in her story. How do you, you know, she's every day she's got to look a child in the face in her old Little Star Foundation. And you're looking at children and families in the face and saying, trust me that I'm going to take some of this pain, you know. And Andrea Agassi put it so well in that documentary. Like, imagine that heart, like what Andrea's heart's been through. That's not easy. I mean, I think about I look at my little dogs and forget about my kids. My kids are, you know, I try not to even think of it, but you look at your puppy and you're like, oh my gosh, how old are you now? You're 8. You're only supposed to live 8 more years. I need to clone you, you know? And I'm just like, I cry at the end of Finding Nemo, let alone. And by the way, I'm very vulnerable. I'm extremely vulnerable with my subjects. I don't, you know, as you can tell just by talking to me, and I'm very aware of it. I'm very chatty, but I'm very vulnerable. Like I don't fear crying with subjects. I'm not like, oh, I can't embarrass myself. I don't want to cry. I mean, I cried 2 minutes after meeting John Williams, and I'm about to direct 9 cameras at the Sony studios, and I'm literally crying, walking out of just being overwhelmed and so happy. So I don't know, that was a long-winded answer, but I hope it.
No, it's beautiful. And thank you for sharing. It's so important. And it just shows again how you are so humble, and Andrea, of course, but how important it is to tell these stories and take these risks, even though, you know, it might be very difficult to create such a project to reach the audience in the right way. That's so important. And I'm so grateful, and a lot of us that we love watching these stories and inspire us and move us forward through the challenges. So thank you for sharing.
And again, I can't do it without being able to lean on all the talented and amazing friends and colleagues that I work with to take off some of that burden.
Absolutely. Thank you. Karen, here you go.
Hi, Martin. I'm Karen. It's a pleasure meeting you and talking to you today. So, your storytelling is about heart. How hard is that to capture on film, even with the advanced technology and advances?
Sometimes we joke nowadays because the technology is moving so fast. I am legit, even more scared than like James Cameron, who created Terminator, right? I am legit terrified of AI. I am, for our youth, for my kids, you know, from cheating on papers to having them take over our own brains, whatever that is. I am terrified of some technology. I really am. I'm like, this is insane how fast this is moving. When it comes to like in our craft and deciding what kind of cameras and what kind of devices and what kind of, you know, we have a lot of movement. Are we going to have a lot of static shots? Are we going to do? Those are conversations that we have from where we're going to do the interviews to how we want them to look. Are we going to shoot a lot of slow-mo? Are we going to shoot zero slow-mo? Are we going to do a little mix of both? Because at the end of the day, if you just do things, this is my philosophy. If you just do things simply for the sake of being different, or we got the new camera and we're just going to do this because we just got this new age. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm going to miss Adriana's incredible story. So I'm like, I don't want to just shoot it right. Of course, I want the right lensing and the right things and enable the right people. But at the end of the day, it's about what is the story and what story are you trying to tell? Mm-hmm. And I try not to let the technology overwhelm me, because it's like if I went to the gym next week, I wouldn't try to put up what I put up in high school because I would die. So I leave my ego at the door. I'll talk with my production team, my director of photography, and this is the story, and get them excited about the story. Tell them how, hey man, I think this is a little more guerrilla, a lot of handheld. It's literally a story that's evolving. So probably don't want a lot of slow-mo shots and phantom cameras or high speed. But then we go, oh wait, but maybe as everything's going quickly, maybe we do want to slow it down and do this when they're talking about the interrogation scenes, and we got like the scary cup of coffee that's coming down or whatever that's. We start visualizing the smoke coming out of the thing. Then we want this. Oh, I got the perfect camera. It's this, blah, 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 blah. So it's sort of a conversation, and then it just evolves based on that and inevitably the budget that you have to tell the story.
It's actually a lot harder than it looks, I bet.
Yeah. I wish we could just do this. Here's my pan and here's my tilt. And we're done.
Wow, that's incredible. So when you have a great idea for a project and it doesn't get the green light, how do you deal with disappointment?
I just pout till I get it. That's what they taught in the third year of rhetoric, was just, if you don't get what you want, act really, really sad and complain until they get annoyed to give you what you want. I've had the blessing of working on, when I was on the unit that was E60, and we did a lot of long form documentary style features, and I was dogged at finding stories that you couldn't say no to, and inevitably some of those stories you get to tell no to. And what I would do is, there's sometimes where I would put a project on the shelf, like it wasn't meant to be. It was God's timeline. It wasn't meant to be. Now, there's a lot of stories that I haven't gotten to do that I see other people get to do, or someone else pitched it, or that I'm like, oh man, why didn't I think of that? Why didn't I think of that? So the stories when I pitch that don't get greenlit, honestly, it's extremely disappointing, because you see something, I just went through it. I can't make you feel or like something just because I like it. And I can sell a used car to a car salesman, but at some point, that car salesman was like, no, I already got 4 of those cars and I don't want that car. So instead of just, you take that, you got, it's almost like a quarterback, honestly, who throws an interception. If you're truly a great quarterback, you might throw 3 picks in the game. You're not going to stop throwing the ball. You're not going to be like, well, I guess I'm just throwing interceptions all day. You're going to go back out there and throw another one. And if you have only one good idea, then you don't need to be doing what this job requires, right? So you have to humble yourself, which I've done over and over again. And then you look at all these stories that I have gotten to do. And by the way, if I'm pitching ideas or pitching whatever it is, why aren't these ideas landing? Is it me? Is it the way I'm selling them? Am I coming going, this is the greatest story ever. It's about a blah, 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 and a blah, blah, blah. Am I being too timid? What am I putting into the pitch? Oh, well, let's move on to the next great big idea.
Wow, yeah, I understand the disappointment, but then, I like that way you say it, it's not God's timing. I think that's very important.
100%.
Yeah. So it is important to be in the present. However, where do you see yourself in the next, say, 10 years? Do you feel passion in producing as a lifelong career?
Well, if the Lord wants to keep me around for 10 more years, that'd be awesome.
We can bring it down to 5.
Good. That's good. 5-year windows. That's great. No, listen, this business, and literally, as you're asking this, today is like a day where, layoffs are happening at Disney, 7,000 jobs, 4,000 jobs, and 3,000 non-open positions. I mean, I think I am, and I'm not saying this for the sake of just sounding, oh my gosh, this guy's the humblest guy on the planet. This is just what I believe. I am expendable in my craft, period. Doesn't matter how many Emmys, doesn't matter how much you make, how little you make. Andrea knows this, especially in sports. And it's not just, what have you done for me lately? You could win 3 Super Bowls, have a couple of rough, and not even have any rough games, and there could be a manager or coach who doesn't like you or doesn't feel the chemistry, and you're gone. So every day I take as a blessing. And if I'm allowed to do this, I think I've done so much in sports. And I love sports. I also love finding the stories that have a loose connection to sports, so I can kind of step out of my comfort, not just say, oh, they did this, and then there's a championship run. Like, that's a nice little device to have. But I always wonder, what could I do with a scripted episodic series on some true crime story? Or, I mean, I'm watching The Chosen, and I'm like, wow, I would have loved to come up with and work on The Chosen, where you can show Christ as a human and really get to feel Jesus as a human being, with humor and the time that he spent and the things that he did, without, a lot of depictions of Christ have been, you got 2 hours, Passion of the Christ. First time we've ever seen what the scourging of the pillar and the crucifixion must have really been like. And it sticks with you, but you're like, again, just like the Jesus of Nazareth that Andrew and I grew up with, watching on Easter Sunday, it was always like stoic Jesus, and it's the Last Supper, and I'm about to go face my death. He doesn't say much besides, I am who you say I am. And then he gets nailed to the cross. I see these projects and I go, man, I would love to, whether it's in the faith world or, I don't know, where Adriana likes to go climbing and do more things like outdoors and whatnot. So if I have a job, I'm very grateful, but I'm always open to seeing what else is out there. I haven't applied for a job, except for 2, in 22 years. I've been so blessed to be able to cultivate a path at ESPN and work at it's basically a theme park. I'm getting to do stories. So it's sometimes falling into that comfort zone, but I've only applied to a couple of different spots. And one of them was under the Disney umbrella. Guess what company it was? And it was a job that I was overqualified for. So I'm like, I don't know. Who knows what the future will bring? But I'll always want to tell stories. My wife's like, you're never going to retire. And all I keep telling her is, I just want to retire and play video games. Like, I need to retire and just be a grandpa. Can't one of these kids, can't Julianne start get married and have babies so I can just hold grandpa, grandpa stories and stuff? As long as they'll let me pay for these stories to be shot, I'll tell some stories. Sure.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, yeah.
It doesn't have to be sports. I guess my big point is, it doesn't have to be sports. So I'm
okay.
looking for an agent. I'm looking for headhunters. If you guys are free. 3%. Andrea's like, tell him you want 5%. 5%.
I know. I'm definitely protective over pretty much. You talked about that a little bit, about when you approach somebody, and whether it's someone that you're directing in an episode or a film, and that's within the foundation. It's like the protective bubble that you can put. I'm very protective. The children and families have gone through so much. I know Karen didn't mention it, but she's a childhood cancer survivor. And so they've gone through so much. You can't control what happens to them in the world, but you can do your part. If they allow you in their life, then you better be responsible of who else you let in. So we're like, so, careful with that in the sense, because it's like how you treat with all your guests and the subjects, you treat them with respect. And so it's the same thing with the children and families. It's just, so what? I played pro tennis. That doesn't mean I qualify to be in these people's hearts. I have to qualify in a whole different manner. And that's where it comes to that, what we talked about a little bit, you did with faith and relationship with God being the number one, and being called to that. And so before we close here, the one thing you said, which is so cool, everything about you, and this is why we're so excited to have you on. You mentioned, your wife talking about your life as play, but that's how you approach your work. It's really hard to, most people don't have that opportunity. You can still try to project it. You can try to navigate it, but sometimes it's still work at the end of the day. It's not necessarily play. So it's really exciting for anyone that gets to listen to you. You boost up your enthusiasm. Oh my gosh, whatever you do that moment, it's super exciting. And so that's really cool. And so in closing, we want to do respect to you and what you had with William and going to the lengths with that. And he had a specific mantra that he used to neutralize his stress and fear and the unknown. And it was, what is now is all, now is all. And so for you, and I'm going to say, I'm going to ask Adriana and Karen if they want to share something that helps. Because I know with Adriana, when we were picking our pictures to put on the Little Starlight podcast, the homepage and the website, I'm like, you have to put a picture of you riding track on your motorcycle. And she goes, no one cares about that. I'm like, are you kidding? Your knees are like on the ground. You've got to show that, And so each of us, whoever's listening, watching, viewing, it's everyone, like you said, Martin, everyone has something special about them. They all have a story. And so the reason we wanted to do this too is for everyone to feel part of the story here, because hopefully something one of us have said, and certainly so many things that you said, Martin, so often you're behind the camera, you're directing, but there should be films that are about you, because you have such a heart and soul and spirit of wanting to give people something that fills their life more, fills their heart more, fills their purpose more, and just have a passion. Because if you have passion for that one moment, it'll help you get to the next one and the next one. So I so thank you for that. So in closing this episode, do you have a specific prayer or a line or a mantra that you use that has continued and helped you throughout?
Well, I mean, you can't get someone crazy emotional and then just ask them to talk after that. What are you guys doing? Oh wow. I think it's kind of like just running into that, the homeless guy who came up to me is it's not necessarily John 3:16 or a proverb or thinking about Revelation or I always refer to when I'm telling people about overcoming things that they've encountered. And I know I haven't been tested nearly as much as clearly Karen, Andrew, what you see every day, Adriana, like what you've experienced in your life. Like, I haven't been tested in that regard. I've lost grandparents. I've lost close friends to cancer. I've seen cancer take friends that I've had. But me personally, I mean, I've had surgeries and stuff, but I've never had, I don't know. My dad passed away a few years ago, still premature, but he was in his 70s, didn't take care of himself. It wasn't a shock that he could have a heart attack. I'm like, you didn't take care of yourself. But I think the biggest thing that I use is that in the Bible, like page 2 of the playbook, we got introduced to original sin. I'm not here to figure out why God, in this amazing, beautiful, ever expanding, inexplicable, hopefully our souls get to travel the depths of the furthest stars and see planets and things that look like planets and plasmas, because that's what the soul is and that's what heaven is. Heaven is literally the universe, and we get to actually see it and zoom around with our lost loved ones. That's my vision of heaven. So that's what keeps me pushing. But I go, on page 2 of Genesis, we are impure. We break our relationship through Adam and Eve and make a choice of the greatest power that God has ever given us, which is free will. He literally created us and said, but I'll let you do whatever you want to do. And that is like, wow. And that puts the burden on us going like, are you going to make the right choice every time? Because you know what the right choice is. You're not going to fool the creator. So when you're sitting there and you go, if you can not be righteous about it and say, I make mistakes, I guarantee you in an hour from now, 2 hours from now, I will have done something that's probably in the sin column through a thought, a choice, my tone, something will be in the sin column today. I guarantee it. But I find that it's the mantra of telling myself I am going to pray about it and then not say, because even non-Christians or non-spiritual people say, yeah, don't give me thoughts and prayers, because they know you're just saying that to be nice. So if you're going to say thoughts and prayers, start with yourself. Pray pray for the strength, pray for the Holy Spirit, pray for God to put the words in your mouth, how to talk to people, how to treat people, and who you want to be, and best reflect him. Look at the world through his eyes. When you talk to your wife, look at your wife through how God looks at your wife, his perfect creation. When I talk to Andrea, Andrea's done so many incredible things. Every time I talk to her, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go to the moon. And I will try to help her do anything she can accomplish. But I'm like, that was even before I realized, wait a minute, that's just my appreciation. I should be looking at Andrea through how God is looking at Andrea. Think about how you'll talk and treat someone then, and pray for a homeless guy or my best friend or my kids, and do it way more frequently, because the more we open up that channel, I believe, through directly to God and let the Holy Spirit work through us, the more humble, the more happy, the less anxious. And by the way, I go talk to a Christian therapist, and because I don't want to get to a point where I'm calculating things that my dear friend Drew started thinking about. I try to get ahead of it and not have any stigmas of how we should act and how we should talk. And, it's not even like not worrying about political correctness and stuff, but being respectful and being loving, because as thick and complicated as the Bible seems, it is literally some of the Old Testament's kind of whack, but it's literally the easiest playbook to follow, because it teaches you, love me, honor me, follow me, and love your neighbor more than yourself. It's the two simplest rules. Hard to do, but very clear and simple. So that's my mantra, the golden rules.
I think being grateful, and that will be for me.
Awesome.
Karen?
I used to kind of live by treat others how you like to be treated, but then not everyone thinks like me or or likes to be treated like way I like to be treated. But then it's also like part of the Bible, like, love others like yourself, like, that's one of God's commandments, and it is hard because not everyone's very lovable. But I do try to live, like, be courteous and be thankful, be nice, be kind to people, no matter what.
You'll get a lot more out of life,
That's a great one.
Whether you're at the store or a stranger at the car wash, if you're just nice to people and smiling more, even when they're not, just see what happens. Just see what happens, because then God starts smiling through you.
Mm-hmm. And in mine, you talk, Martin, about the relationship with God, and so mine is, and you brought up an important point. A lot of people ask for help or thank you for the help or things like that, and so mine's always remember that God is your friend, and so when you have a friend, you don't just say give me, and you just, when you're given it, you say thank you. It's my I always try to have my best relationship in my life is the one that I have with God, and that's something that I just, I hope that everybody has an opportunity, however they deem that in their life, and however, if they've been hurt. I know a lot of families are really hurting out there in the world because they've been having such extreme suffering, and sometimes they blame God, and sometimes that's a hard part. And so, for that, to bring that back in to them so they can have that loving relationship again, and the friendship, because God's always there, always sees, always knows, always hears, and always does the very best. And so anyway, but this has been so great. So I want to thank you again, Martin. This has been such a wonderful opportunity for us to have you in front of the camera and, with us here on Little Star Light. And we certainly send blessings and prayers to you and your family. And hopefully we'll get to see each other again soon.
Andrew, we gotta take a photo.
Oh, we gotta take a
Martin
picture.
is okay.
Oh yeah. Oh man, I didn't put any makeup on, so I don't have a good side either. So I'll just kind of.
Martin, we're gonna have to bring you back on Christmas with that Star Wars Christmas tree. You know that, right?
Let's do it. You're gonna need a 3-hour block for that one. Let's do the time lapse. We'll do everything. I'll let you guys put the helmet. It'll be great.
All right. 1, 2, 3. Everybody smile. Wonderful.
All right. Thank you so much, Martin. Love you.
Thank you so much, Martin. This was amazing.
Karen.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm here for you guys anytime. Thank you so
All
much.
right.
Wonderful to meet you.
All right,
Bye.
Love you
fantastic.
guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bye.